Sirith had never felt so lost in her own home. The first hour with Lily had been awkward silence. Sirith sat on one side of her small living space. Lily sat on the other. The child clutched her stuffed animal and looked around at the unfamiliar room with wide eyes. Sirith's quarters were not designed for children. Everything was hard metal and sharp corners. She had no toys, no soft furniture, no bright colors. Just the practical belongings of a female who lived alone and preferred it that way. "Are you hungry?" Sirith finally asked. Her voice sounded too loud in the quiet room. Lily nodded. "Daddy said I should eat dinner soon." Sirith checked the datapad Daniel had given her. The instructions were incredibly detailed. Lily's bedtime. Lily's favorite foods. Lily's allergies. Lily's fears. The man had thought of everything according to the list. Lily liked noodles with butter. Sirith did not have noodles. She did not have butter. She had dried meat and preserved vegetables, Drakari food that would probably taste terrible to a human child. "I must get food from the market," Sirith said. "You will come with me." Lily stood up immediately. "Okay." They walked through the station corridors together. Sirith moved slowly so the child could keep up. Lily's short legs took 3 steps for every one of Sirith's strides. Other residents stared at them. A Drakari female walking with a human child was not a common sight. Sirith felt their eyes on her scales. She heard whispered questions. Her shoulders tensed, but Lily did not seem to notice the attention. She looked at everything with wonder. The glowing signs, the strange aliens, the floating cargo drones. "This station is so big," she said. "Daddy says we came here because he got a good job. We used to live on a colony, but it was small. This is better." Sirith did not respond. She focused on walking. "Why do you live alone?" Lily asked. Suddenly the question caught Sirith off guard. "What?" "Your home only has stuff for one person," Lily explained. "Don't you have a family?" Sirith's claws tightened at her sides. "My family is on the homeworld. I came here for work. Do you miss them?" No one had asked Sirith this question in 5 years. She did not know how to answer. "Sometimes," she finally said. Lily nodded as if this made perfect sense. "I miss my mommy sometimes. Daddy says it's okay to miss people. It means we love them." Something sharp twisted in Sirith's chest. She pushed forward into the marketplace, eager to end this conversation. She found a stall selling human food and bought noodles, butter, and some fruit that the list said Lily enjoyed. The vendor looked at her strangely, but took her credits without comment. Back in her quarters, Sirith attempted to prepare the meal. She had never cooked human food before. The noodles stuck together. The butter did not melt properly. The result looked nothing like food, but Lily ate it anyway. "Thank you," the child said politely, even as she struggled with the clumpy noodles. "It's good." Sirith knew she was lying, but something about the small kindness touched her. After dinner, Lily asked if she could draw. Sirith did not have paper or coloring tools, but she found a spare datapad and showed Lily how to use the drawing program. For an hour, Lily sat quietly, creating pictures with her small fingers. Sirith watched from across the room, unsure what else to do. Finally, Lily held up the datapad. "Look." The screen showed a crude drawing of 2 figures. One was tall with scales and a tail. One was tall with scales and a tail. The other was small with orange hair. They were holding hands. "That's us," Lily said proudly. Sirith stared at the image. "Why are we holding hands?" "Because we're friends." "We are not friends. We just met." Lily tilted her head. "But you're taking care of me. That's what friends do." Sirith did not know how to argue with this logic. She simply nodded and turned away, pretending to organize something on her shelf. When bedtime came, Cirith realized she had another problem. She only had one sleeping platform, built for Drakari proportions. It was too hard and too large for a small human child. She gathered every soft item she owned, 2 blankets and a cushion, and arranged them in the corner. It was not comfortable, but it was the best she could do. Lily changed into her sleeping clothes and crawled into the makeshift bed. She clutched her stuffed animal close. "Will you stay with me until I fall asleep?" she asked. Cirith hesitated. Every part of her wanted to retreat to the other room. But Lily's eyes were wide and nervous in the dim light. "Yes," Cirith said. "I will stay." She sat on the floor beside the child, her back against the wall. Lily watched her for a moment, then closed her eyes. Minutes passed. Cirith listened to the child's breathing slow and deepen. She thought Lily was asleep. Then, softly, Lily spoke. "I had bad dreams after Mommy went away." Cirith went very still. "Daddy would stay with me every night," Lily continued, her voice sleepy and small. "He said the bad dreams can't hurt me because he's there. He keeps me safe." The child's breathing evened out again. This time, she was truly asleep. Cirith sat in the darkness for a long time, watching the small creature before her. So fragile, so trusting. Lily had walked into a stranger's home, into the care of a species she had never met, and she had simply decided to believe she was safe. How did humans survive at all? They were soft and slow and weak. Their children were helpless for years before they could care for themselves. By Drakari standards, they should have been extinct long ago, but here they were, spreading across the galaxy, building families in strange places, trusting strangers with their most precious treasures. Perhaps that was their secret, Cirith thought. Not strength in the body, but strength in the heart. The courage to be vulnerable. The faith that others would protect them. It was a strange kind of power. One that Cirith did not fully understand, that she stayed by Lily's side until the station's lights dimmed to simulate deep night. Then she moved to her own sleeping platform, exhausted by the weight of this strange day. Sleep came slowly. And when it finally arrived, Cirith's dreams were filled with fire and small green eyes, and a child's voice asking questions she could not answer. In the middle of the night, Cirith woke to a sound. High and sharp and desperate. Lily was crying. Cirith moved quickly, her claws clicking on the floor. She found Lily sitting up in her blankets, tears streaming down her face, her small body shaking. "Daddy," the child sobbed. "I want my daddy." Cirith froze. She had no idea what to do. Drakari hatchlings were independent from birth. They did not need comfort. They did not cry in the night, but this small creature was breaking apart before her eyes, and Cirith could not simply watch. Slowly, awkwardly, she knelt beside the child. She did not know how to hold something so small. She was terrified her claws would hurt her, but Lily made the choice for her. The child threw herself forward and wrapped her arms around Cirith's neck, pressing her wet face against Cirith's scales. Cirith stopped breathing. The warmth of the child's body seeped through her scales. The sound of Lily's crying filled her ears, and then, without quite deciding to do it, Cirith wrapped her arms around the tiny human, carefully, gently, holding her the way she had seen Daniel do. "You are safe," Cirith said. The words felt strange on her tongue. "I am here. You are safe." Lily's crying slowly quieted. Her grip on Cirith loosened. Her breathing steadied. They stayed like that until the child fell asleep again, still wrapped in Cirith's arms, and Cirith discovered that her heart, which she had thought was made of stone, had begun to crack. Katie Morgan had worked a 12-hour shift in the lower engine rooms. Her muscles ached. Her uniform was dirty. All she wanted was a hot meal and a quiet place to eat it. She walked into the dining hall and looked around. The place was packed, as usual. She saw her colleagues from the maintenance team at their regular table near the windows. There was space there. She could join them, listen to the same jokes she had heard 100 times, and go to bed early. But something else caught her attention. In the far corner of the hall, a Sylvan woman sat alone at a large table. Katie had never seen a Sylvan in person before. She had read about them, of course. Everyone had. The war with the Trevani was taught in coalition history classes as an example of how conflicts could end in peace. But looking at this woman now, Katie did not see a representative of a species. She saw a person eating alone while everyone else pretended she did not exist. Katie knew that feeling. She remembered her first month on the station, when she was just a junior technician from a species that most aliens had never heard of. Humans were new to the galaxy, strange, different. It took time before anyone bothered to learn her name. She made her decision. Katie walked across the dining hall, past the crowded tables, past her colleagues who waved at her to join them. She walked straight toward the corner where the Sylvan woman sat with her head down, staring at her food. The Sylvan looked up as Katie approached. Her large dark eyes were filled with surprise and something that looked like fear. Her antennae pressed flat against her forehead. Katie smiled. "Hey there. Is this seat taken?" The Sylvan stared at her for a moment. "No," she said finally. Her voice was soft and musical. "No, it is not taken." "Great." Katie set her tray down and sat across from the woman. "I'm Katie Morgan, Engineering Division. I fix things that break, which on this station means I'm always busy." The Sylvan blinked several times. "I am Velthira. I work in the translation office. A translator? That's impressive. How many languages do you speak?" 17 fluently. Another 12 with basic ability. Katie let out a low whistle. 17? I can barely handle 2. English and bad English. Velthira's antennae twitched slightly. It took Katie a moment to realize this was the Sylvan equivalent of a confused frown. "That was a joke," Katie explained. "Not a very good one, but we humans try." "I see." Velthira paused. "Why are you sitting here?" The question was direct. Katie appreciated that. "Because you were alone," she said simply. "And eating alone is no fun." "Trust me, I know." She started eating her meal. It was some kind of stew with chunks of vegetables and protein. Not bad, though she missed real Earth food sometimes. Velthira did not eat. She watched Katie with an expression that was hard to read. "You are human," Velthira said. "Last time I checked. Humans are popular on this station. You have many friends. You did not need to sit with me." Katie looked up. Need and want are different things. "I wanted to sit here. Is that okay?" Velthira was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, her antennae rose slightly from their flattened position. "Yes," she said. "That is okay." They ate together in silence for a while. Katie noticed that other beings in the hall were watching them. Some looked curious. Others looked annoyed. She saw Commander Drexel at a table near the entrance, his dark green face twisted in disapproval. Katie ignored them all. "So," she said between bites, "tell me about your homeworld." "I've never met a Sylvan before." Velthira looked surprised again. "You want to know about Sylva?" "Why wouldn't I? Most people." "Do not ask." Katie shrugged. "Most people are boring. Come on, tell me. What's it like?" For the first time since they met, Velthira's expression softened. Her antennae rose a little higher. "Sylva is a water world," she began. 70% of the surface is ocean. The land is mostly islands and coastal plains. The sky is often gray with clouds, and it rains frequently. "Sounds like Seattle," Katie said. "What is Seattle?" "A city on Earth. It rains there all the time. My grandmother was from there." She used to say that Seattle people are made of water and coffee. Valthera tilted her head. Your grandmother sounds like an interesting person. She was. Katie smiled at the memory. She taught me that the weather doesn't matter as long as you have good company. So, what else? What do Sullivans eat? What do you do for fun? The questions kept coming. Katie asked about food, music, family traditions, holidays, everything she could think of. Valthera answered hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence. Her voice became stronger. Her antennae moved freely, expressing emotions that Katie was starting to understand. By the time their trays were empty, almost an hour had passed. Katie realized with surprise that she had forgotten how tired she was. I should go, she said finally. Early shift tomorrow. The water recyclers on Deck 7 are acting up again. Valthera nodded. Thank you for sitting with me. It was unexpected. The best things usually are. Katie stood and picked up her tray. Same time tomorrow? Valthera froze. Tomorrow? Yeah, same table, same time. Unless you have other plans? I do not have other plans. Then it's a date. Katie grinned. Not a romantic date. A friend date. We humans do that. We claim people and then refuse to let them eat alone ever again. Valthera's antennae twitched in that confused way again. But this time, there was something else in her expression. Something that looked almost like hope. I would like that, she said quietly. Great. See you tomorrow, Valthera. Katie walked away, dropping her tray at the collection point near the exit. As she left the dining hall, she passed Commander Drexel. He was watching her with narrow eyes. Engineer Morgan, he said. Katie stopped. Commander, that Sullivans is new here. I would advise you to be careful about the company you keep. Katie met his gaze steadily. She was not afraid of him. She was not afraid of anyone who judged people by their species instead of their character. With respect, Commander, she said, I'll keep whatever company I choose. Have a good evening. She walked out before he could respond. Behind her, in the dining hall, Valthera sat alone at the corner table. But for the first time since she arrived on Harmony 7, she did not feel alone. She looked at the empty seat across from her. The seat where a human had chosen to sit when no one else would. Tomorrow. Same time. Same table. Valthera did not understand humans. They were strange, unpredictable creatures who did things that made no sense. Why would anyone risk their reputation to sit with a Sullivans? Why would anyone care about someone they had just met? But as she left the dining hall and walked back to her small quarters, she found that she did not need to understand. For the first time in weeks, she was looking forward to tomorrow. Katie kept her promise. The next day, she was there at the corner table before Valthera arrived. She waved when she saw the Sullivans enter the dining hall. Valthera's antennae rose in surprise, then settled into a relaxed position as she walked over. You came, Valthera said. I said I would. Katie gestured to the seat across from her. Sit. Tell me about your day. This became their routine. Every evening, they met at the same table. They talked about their work, their lives, their worlds. Katie learned that Valthera loved music and could play an instrument similar to a human harp. Valthera learned that Katie had a younger brother back on Earth who sent her messages every week. On the third day, someone else joined them. His name was Ryan Peters. He worked with Katie in the engineering division. He was tall and thin, with messy brown hair and a quick smile. When he sat down at their table, Valthera tensed. Relax, Katie said. This is Ryan. He's good people. Ryan extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting. Nice to meet you. Katie won't stop talking about you. Says you speak 17 languages. That true? Valthera carefully took his hand and shook it the way she had seen humans do. Yes, it is true. That's wild. I can barely speak one. He grinned. What's the hardest language you've ever learned? The tension left Valthera's shoulders. She answered his question, then another, then another. Ryan asked about everything with genuine curiosity. He treated her the same way he treated Katie, the same way he treated everyone. Like a person. Like a friend. By the end of the week, their small group had become a fixture in the dining hall. Other crew members noticed. Most just watched with mild curiosity. But some began to change. A Melari trader nodded at Valthera in the corridor one morning. A Vindori technician asked her opinion on a translation problem. Small things. Tiny gestures. But to Valthera, they meant everything. People are starting to see you, Katie said one evening. The real you. Not the stories they've heard. Because of you, Valthera replied. You changed things. Katie shook her head. I just sat down. You did the rest. Valthera wanted to argue, but she knew it would not change Katie's mind. Humans were strange that way. They did extraordinary things and then pretended those things were ordinary. Not everyone was happy with the changes. Commander Drexel watched them from across the dining hall every evening. His expression never changed. Cold, disapproving, waiting. One day, he made his move. Katie was walking through the station's administrative corridor when Drexel stepped out of his office and blocked her path. Engineer Morgan, he said. A word. Katie stopped. Commander, in private. He gestured toward his office. Katie followed him inside. The office was neat and organized, filled with medals and commendations displayed on the walls. Drexel sat behind his desk and looked at her with those hard, unreadable eyes. You have been spending considerable time with the Sylvan translator, he said. Her name is Valthera. I know her name. His voice was sharp. I also know her species, their history, what they did. Katie remained standing. What happened was decades ago, before she was born. That does not matter. Blood carries memory. Her people killed my people. They destroyed colonies. They murdered children. Drexel's hands clenched on the desk. Some wounds do not heal. Katie looked at him for a long moment. She saw the anger in his eyes. But beneath that, she saw something else. Pain. Old, deep pain that had never been allowed to fade. I understand, she said quietly. I understand that you suffered. That your people suffered. But Valthera wasn't there. She didn't do those things. She's just a person trying to do her job and find her place in the galaxy. She should find her place somewhere else. She has the same right to be here as anyone. The Coalition accepted her species. She passed all the requirements. She is qualified. Drexel leaned forward. Let me be direct, engineer. Your association with this Sylvan is damaging your reputation. Other officers have noticed. Other crews have talked. If you continue down this path, you will find doors closing. Opportunities disappearing. Is one alien worth your career? Katie met his gaze without flinching. With respect, Commander, I choose my friends based on who they are. Not based on what others say about their species. Not based on crimes they never committed. You are making a mistake. Then it's my mistake to make. She turned and walked toward the door. Morgan. She stopped but did not turn around. Humans, Drexel said slowly, have only been part of the Coalition for a few decades. You think you understand how things work here. You do not. There are rules. There are hierarchies. There are memories that go back thousands of years. You cannot change these things by being friendly. Katie turned to face him. Maybe not. But I can choose not to be part of them. She left his office and walked back to the engineering section. Her hands were shaking slightly. Not from fear, from anger. That evening, she told Valthera what had happened. Valthera's antennae dropped low. I am sorry. I have caused problems for you. No. Katie reached across the table and took Valthera's hand. You haven't caused anything. Drexal has his own issues to work through. That's not your responsibility. But your career will be fine. I'm good at my job. They can't touch me for eating dinner with a friend. Valthera looked at their joined hands. In Sylvan culture, physical touch between non-family members was rare. It was a sign of deep trust. You are a strange creature, Katie Morgan, she said softly. Katie smiled. I know. It's part of my charm. Ryan joined them a few minutes later, carrying an extra dessert that he split 3 ways. They talked and laughed as if nothing had happened. As if the station commander had not just threatened Katie's future. Valthera watched her human friends and felt something warm growing in her chest. This was what it meant to belong. Not to a species. Not to a homeworld. But to people who chose you, who stood beside you, who refused to let you face the darkness alone. Later that night, alone in her quarters, Valthera looked out her small window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Saluva, her homeworld. She had left it hoping to find acceptance. She had found something better. She had found family. A sudden alarm shattered the silence. Red lights flashed. A voice came over the station's communication system, calm but urgent. Attention all personnel. Emergency on Deck 12. All available medical and engineering staff report immediately. This is not a drill. Valthera's antennae snapped upright. She grabbed her communication device and ran toward the door. Something had happened. Something bad. And somehow, she knew that everything was about to change. The emergency was worse than anyone expected. A cargo vessel had arrived at the station's outer docking bay, badly damaged and venting atmosphere. The ship was from a species called the Karathi, traders from a distant region of the galaxy that had no formal relationship with the Coalition. Their vessel had been struck by debris from a collapsed mining satellite. Half their crew was trapped in damaged sections. Their life support was failing, and no one on Harmony 7 could understand their language. Valthera arrived at the command center to find chaos. Officers shouted orders. Engineers ran back and forth with equipment. Medical teams waited helplessly near the airlocks. Unable to act without information, Commander Drexal stood at the center of it all, his face tight with frustration. They keep transmitting, he growled at his communications officer. But we cannot understand a single word. Every translator we have says the language is unknown. It is Karathi, the officer replied. Our databases have no record of it. The species has had minimal contact with Coalition space. Valthera pushed through the crowd. Commander. Drexel turned. His eyes narrowed when he saw her. This is an emergency situation. What are you doing here? I speak Karathi. The command center went silent. Drexel stared at her. What? Karathi. I learned it 3 years ago from a refugee who passed through our system. It is not widely known, but I am fluent. For a long moment, Drexel said nothing. Valthera could see the conflict in his eyes. He did not trust her. He did not want her help. But lives were at stake. Put her on the communication channel, he said. Finally, an officer guided Valthera to the main console. She put on the translation headset and adjusted the frequency. A burst of static filled her ears, then a voice. The Karathi captain was speaking rapidly, desperately. Valthera listened carefully. Then she spoke. The words came out in the clicking, whistling sounds of the Karathi language. Strange sounds that human throats could never produce. But Siluvan vocal cords were different. Flexible, capable of mimicking almost any sound. There was silence on the other end. Then the captain responded, slower this time, with obvious relief. He says 12 crew members are trapped in the forward cargo bay. Valthera translated. The doors are jammed. They have approximately 2 hours of air remaining. He's asking if we can help. Drexel nodded. Tell him we are sending an engineering team immediately. Valthera relayed the message. The captain responded. He says there is a complication. The cargo bay contains volatile chemicals. If the rescue team uses cutting tools near certain areas, the entire section could explode. Where are the safe areas? Valthera asked. The captain explained in detail. She translated everything, her voice steady despite the pressure. Katie arrived with the engineering response team minutes later. She wore her heavy work suit and carried a bag of tools. Her face was serious but calm. What's the situation? She asked. Valthera explained quickly. Katie nodded, absorbing the information. We can do this, but I need constant communication with the captain. There are going to be questions. I will stay on the channel, Valthera said. Whatever you need. Katie smiled briefly. Then let's go save some people. The next 2 hours were the longest of Valthera's life. She stayed at the communication console, translating between the Karathi captain and the rescue team. Every instruction had to be perfect. Every question had to be answered immediately. One mistake could cost lives. Katie's voice came through the channel constantly. Ask him about the pressure valve on the left side. Is the secondary hatch manual or electronic? There's a red panel here. What does the marking mean? Valthera translated. The captain answered. She translated again. Back and forth, over and over. A bridge of words connecting two species that had never met. The station crew watched in silence. Even Drexel said nothing. He stood near the console, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. Then came the critical moment. We're at the main door, Katie reported. But there's a lock mechanism I don't recognize. The captain needs to walk me through it step by step. Valthera relayed the message. The captain's response was long and complicated. She translated carefully, making sure every detail was correct. Turn the upper dial counterclockwise until you hear a click. Then pull the red lever down, not up. Up will trigger the lockdown. Down will release the seal. Got it, Katie said. Silence. Then a hiss of escaping air. We're in, Katie reported. I can see them. They're alive. The command center erupted in cheers. Valthera felt tears forming in her eyes. She blinked them away and continued translating as the medical teams coordinated the evacuation of the trapped crew. An hour later. It was over. All 12 Karathi crew members were safely aboard the station, receiving medical treatment. Their captain had been brought to the command center to speak with Drexel directly. Valthera stood between them, translating their conversation. The captain wishes to express his deepest gratitude, Valthera said. He says that his crew would have died without your help. He asks how he can repay this debt. Drexel shook his head. Tell him that no debt is owed. The coalition helps those in need. That is our purpose. Valthera translated. The captain listened, then spoke again. He says that in his culture, a life saved creates a bond that lasts forever. He will remember Harmony 7. He will tell his people about the beings who saved them. The captain turned to Valthera and said something else. His voice was warm, almost emotional. She hesitated. What did he say? Drexel asked. He said that he has traveled to many places. He has met many species, but he has never met a translator who spoke his language. He says I gave him his voice when he needed it most. He says I gave his crew their lives. The captain extended his hand in a gesture that was clearly meaningful in his culture. Valthera took it. They stood there for a moment, two strangers connected by the power of words. After the captain was led away to rest, the command center slowly emptied. The crisis was over. Normal operations would resume. Valthera turned to leave, but a voice stopped her. Translator. She turned. Drexel was standing behind her. Yes, Commander? He looked at her for a long moment. His expression was still hard, still guarded. But something had changed in his eyes. Your work today was adequate, he said. Coming from Drexel, this was practically a medal of honor. Thank you, Commander. He nodded once, then walked away. It was not forgiveness. It was not acceptance. But it was acknowledgement. It was a crack in the wall he had built against her. Katie found her in the corridor outside. You were amazing, Katie said, pulling her into a hug. Valthira, you saved those people. We saved them together. No, I just cut some metal. You made it possible for us to even try. Katie stepped back and looked at her with pride. The whole station saw what you did today. They saw who you really are. Valthira's antennae rose high, expressing joy she could not put into words. Thank you, Katie, for everything. You don't have to thank me. That's what friends are for. They walked back to the residential section together, exhausted but happy. Tomorrow, things would be different. Valthira could feel it. She had proven her worth. Not through force or politics, but through the simple act of using her skills to help others. She had found her place. Valthira did not sleep well that night. Her mind kept replaying the events of the rescue. The voices through the communication channel. The tension in the command center. The moment when Katie reported that the trapped crew was alive. Every detail burned bright in her memory. When morning came, she felt exhausted but strangely light. As if a weight she had carried for weeks had finally been lifted. She went through her morning routine slowly. Shower, uniform, a quick meal in her quarters. She was not ready to face the dining hall yet. Not ready to see how things had changed. Or if they had changed at all. Her shift at the translation office was different. When she walked in, her colleagues looked up. Not with suspicion or indifference, but with something new. Curiosity, respect. The Vendori supervisor, who had barely spoken to her before, nodded in her direction. Good work yesterday, he said. The commander sent a commendation to our department. Valthira did not know how to respond. Thank you. The Garithi captain has requested that you be his official translator for the remainder of their stay. His ship will be in repair dock for at least a week. I would be honored. The supervisor almost smiled. Almost. Get to work then. The day passed quickly. Valthira visited the Garithi captain and his crew in the medical bay. She translated their conversations with the doctors. She helped them understand the station's systems and customs. She answered their questions about the coalition, about other species, about everything they wanted to know. The captain, whose name translated roughly to strong current, treated her like family. He introduced her to each of his crew members. He shared stories of his homeworld, a planet of vast oceans and floating cities. He asked about Saluva, and she told him things she had not told anyone else. You are far from home, he said through her translation. Yet you carry your home inside you. I can see it in the way you speak. Valthira's antennae trembled slightly. I try to remember where I came from, even when others would prefer I forget. Strong current made a sound that was his species equivalent on a sad laugh. We are all strangers somewhere. The measure of a person is how they treat those who are strange to them. When evening came, Valthira walked to the dining hall. Her steps were slower than usual. She was still not sure what to expect. The hall was as busy as always. Dozens of species eating together, talking together, living their lives. Everything looked the same, but when Valthira approached her usual corner table, she stopped. It was not empty. Katie was there, of course. So was Ryan, but there were others. 3 crew members that Valthira recognized but had never spoken to. A Melari woman from the science division. A young human man from communications. A Vendori technician who worked in the same building as her. They saw her standing there and waved. "Velthira," Katie called out. "Come sit down. We saved you a spot." Velthira walked toward them in a daze. The Malari woman stood and offered her hand in the human style of greeting. "I am Sari," she said. "I heard what you did yesterday. The entire station is talking about it. I was just doing my job." "No," Sari shook her head. "You saved lives. That is more than a job." The young human man introduced himself as Kevin. He was new to the station, just a few months ahead of Velthira. "I wanted to say hello before," he admitted, "but I didn't know how. You always seem so alone." She was not alone, Katie said firmly. She just needed people to notice. Velthira sat down among them. The table that had felt so empty for so long was now crowded with faces and voices. Questions came from all directions. What was Saluva like? How many languages did she really speak? Was it true that she had talked for 2 hours straight during the rescue? She answered them all. Her voice grew stronger with each response. Her antennae rose high, expressing happiness she had almost forgotten she could feel. Across the dining hall, Commander Drexel sat at his usual table. He was watching them. His expression was still hard, still distant. But he did not speak. He did not interfere. When Velthira caught his eye, he held her gaze for a moment. Then he looked away. It was not friendship. It might never be friendship. But the open hostility was gone. The wall had cracked, and that crack would only grow wider with time. After the meal, as the group began to break apart, Katie walked with Velthira toward the residential section. "So," Katie said, "how does it feel?" "How does what feel?" "Belonging." Velthira thought about the question. She thought about the weeks of loneliness. The stares. The whispers. The feeling of being invisible in a crowd of thousands. Then she thought about today. The conversations. The laughter. The simple act of eating a meal surrounded by people who wanted to know her. "It feels like breathing," she said finally. "Like I've been holding my breath for a very long time, and now I can finally let it go." Katie nodded. "I know exactly what you mean." They walked in comfortable silence for a while. The station hummed around them, full of life and movement and possibility. "Katie," Velthira said. "Yeah?" "That first day, when you sat with me, why did you really do it?" Katie was quiet for a moment. "I told you. Because you were alone. But there must have been more. You risked your reputation. Your career. You made enemies. Why would you do that for a stranger?" Katie stopped walking. She turned to face Velthira, her expression serious. "Because someone did it for me once." Velthira's antennae tilted in question. "When I first arrived here," Katie continued, "I was scared. Humans were still new to the coalition. A lot of species didn't trust us. Some thought we were too aggressive. Others thought we were too primitive. I spent my first month eating alone, just like you. What changed?" An old Malari engineer sat down next to me one day. He didn't say much, just ate his meal and asked me about my work. The next day, he did it again. And the day after that. Katie smiled at the memory. He never made a big deal about it. He just showed up. And eventually, others started showing up too. What happened to him? He retired a few years ago, went back to his homeworld. But before he left, he told me something I never forgot. What did he say? Katie looked at Velthira with warm eyes. He said that kindness is the only thing that multiplies when you give it away. He said that one person choosing to see another person can change everything. And he said that if I ever had the chance to do for someone else what he did for me, I should take it. Velthira felt her eyes growing wet. Her antennae dropped low in an expression of deep emotion. You changed my life, Katie. You gave me a home when I thought I would never have one. No. Katie reached out and took her hand. You always had it in you. All I did was remind you. They stood there for a moment, two friends from different worlds, connected by something stronger than species or history or the distance between stars. Then Katie grinned. Now come on. Ryan wants to show us this terrible human movie about space pirates. It's going to be awful, and we're going to love it. Althea laughed. It was a sound she had not made in months. Light and free and full of joy, she followed Katie down the corridor, toward the future, toward the life she had always dreamed of, but never believed she could have. And as she walked, she thought about how it all started. A crowded dining hall, an empty table, a stranger who chose to sit down. Such a small thing, such a simple thing. But sometimes, the smallest things are the ones that matter most, because a human chose her seat as if she mattered more than anyone. And in doing so, she showed Velthira that she did.